Good evening, ladies and gents. As always, the main purpose of our CarpFix Live is to do an interactive Q&A with yourselves. Basically getting all your questions answered, whether it be about our current content, future films, your own fishing, our fishing, anything carp fishing, as I say. But first of all, obviously, while you're getting your questions ready, any good ones that we particularly like, we're going to give away a free sticker pack for the ones we like. These are just a few. There's 4 in the pack.
Yeah, there's 4 in a pack. We do like all of the questions, by the way.
The ones we particularly
just
like.
the one that we might just, call it out send some.
Yeah. But before we, while you're getting them ready and they sort of come in for Scott to answer, I'll tell you a little bit about some upcoming films that are coming for the next 3 consecutive weeks. Is that right?
Yep, that's correct.
Okay, so I fished Bayswater between 2015 and 2018, sort of on-off, a lot of winter fishing mainly, and then at the back end, towards the back end of that time, sort of into 2018, the coconut common had been caught at 50, and I went after it a little bit and did manage to catch it. And at the time, there was lots of mid-30s in there, and a fish called buggies at £40 that I hadn't caught. I'd been offered a welly ticket, and I said to Gary Bays, who runs Bayswater, obviously it's his lake, I said to him that I'd like to drop out, but with the sort of idea being I'll come back in the future. And in my imagination, I didn't realise it would be so quickly at the time. I thought I might come back for that fish called buggies, but in that time away while I was fishing Wellington, the coconut common and buggies both died. But it's seen a lot of bait in recent years. And although I was on there a few years and I did catch a few, so there was quite a lot of the bigger fish that avoided me first time around. And a lot of them have grown on. There's one in particular called pin scale that has been caught at 49. It could have been £50 this spring. There's another one in there called Mango that's been caught up to £47. One called the Baby Coconut. I think that's a low 40, sort of 42, 43. And a linear called the Equals Linear, which is again sort of 42, 43 pounders. So 4 good 40s in there that I never caught, or say 4 good 40s. One of them could be £50. 4 really nice fish right on my doorstep. And without having many local tickets, it seemed like a good one to get back on. And yeah, in April, we filmed 3 consecutive 4-night sessions. So I was fishing Sunday to Thursday. Is that right? Sunday, Monday,
Sunday,
Tuesday.
Thursday, yeah.
Yeah, Sunday to Thursday, 3 weeks in a row. Caught on each of the 3 sessions. Got off to an absolute flyer on the first one. There's about 50 carp in Bayswater, in about 8-9 acres, something like that. And was it 4 or 5? 4 in the first session.
I'd say 5. You had quite a good session.
Yeah, really good session on the first one.
Not too sure.
Fishing Zig Rig, a lot of Bayswater in April is zig fishing, as you will see in these series of films. I didn't actually manage to catch any of those 4 fish that I was directly after, but I did catch some nice ones along the way. Obviously last year we had that amazing session at Wasing where in 5 bites I caught the 3 big ones. This time around it wasn't quite so lucky with the bites. I had I can't remember how many bites exactly we had, but it was quite a few bites. When you're talking a 50 fish stock, I think we had 10 bites over the session. So to knock out or to have hooked 20% of the fish in the lake in those 3 sessions was really good going. But there's elements of fortune in fishing, and we didn't. As you go into May, I always feel that that's when the big ones are most likely to slip up. But we had other films. I'd some filming with Korda to do at Gigantica at the beginning of May, and just had to pull off at the wrong time. But it's a good 3 good films. You see the work rate, moving around. The thought process building from one session to another, sort of learning the behaviour of the fish and adjusting my approach to suit. But yeah, looking forward to them coming out.
Nice. And you just returned from a nice little session on the canals.
Yeah, it's been.
Was it just canals you went on?
Just on canals, yeah. So I've not done that. We've not done that for CarpFix yet, have we? So
we tried to.
Did we?
We tried to on the way back from.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we after the it was the
Prune.
Prune film, the
Yeah.
Carpson's Prune film. We dropped in on the canal on the way home and got caught night fishing on a section that we shouldn't have been on.
We didn't. We kind of. Did we know or not know? Like it was.
Well,
was
you read it. You read it on the website, and it made it sound that as long as we wasn't 50 meters from, 80 meters from the lock, then we were good.
Yeah.
But it turns out we weren't good.
Yeah.
And they'd caught other people fishing recently, and they charged them €150 because they had the ache because a few people had been caught there. We got charged €300. So we bought the license, didn't we, for €100,
Yeah.
and then cast out for about 3 hours,
Yeah.
and then got nicked for €300. So 400 hours for 4 hours.
Yeah, so if you go to the canals, do your research.
You do your research.
But
you say that. I've just gone to the canals, haven't I? And I've done loads of research on the two set. I looked at two.
And I did. I sent you a load of maps.
Yeah.
I literally spent like an hour, 2 hours on an evening just double checking that you could actually, because obviously the information you get might not be 100%.
No.
So I wanted just to
check.
Yeah, and they've put a lot of maps. I've seen there's a lot of maps.
I've got maps, and I've also got like a spreadsheet of the sections. But I looked at 2 sections, went to a 3rd section, fished, found fish on the 4th section, had been told by someone that was night fishing, done the first night there. And then the next day, a local angler came round and said, "No night fishing here, mate." I'm like, "Oh, no."
But it can easily, obviously the language is different. It can easily be confused, and
it's quite easy to get fines in France. It is. It is. But like we say, I had a really good session. Caught 10 fish in 3 nights angling. Lost 2 on the first night. Second day had a flurry of fish, and then on the 3rd day had a real big one for we're talking real thin narrow canal, and had a 45 pounder, which is that's a big fish for a tiny little canal like that. And then, again, it'll be a little bit different, interesting film.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not too sure. I think that might be out in like 2 months or something. Maybe we'll see.
Yeah.
Should we do some questions?
Yeah.
Right, Timothy Robinson. Hook link length important. So, how much impact does hook link length have on certain situations? When would you shorten or when would you lengthen it?
Okay, so there's it's a good question. He can have a sticker pack
straight in
there. There is a reason why there's what you would call like an average hook length. So if you said that a lot of people's rig length is around, let's say, 6 to 8 inches. And I think that is a very good starting point. I think my rigs are most of the time about 7 inches long. It's giving the fish, it's also, you want the bait far enough away from the lead so it doesn't look too ugly, too hideous. It does look nicer on the bottom. Less conspicuous when the bait is a few inches away from the lead. It also reacts in what I would say is the right amount of time. It gives the fish enough time to get the hook bait in its mouth, but it sort of tensions to the lead quite quickly before the fish has a chance to realise that it's made a mistake. So I would say a normal rig with like normal size baits, between 10 and 20 mil, that a good starting point would be 6 to 8 inches. For solid bags, obviously you've got all your food in the bag. I would reduce the length in my solid. You could use them really short, but I tend to use about 4.5 inches inside a solid bag. And the only time that I would probably go longer is when I'm using bigger baits with longer hairs, because I'm fishing for really big fish. And I find if you're going to use big baits with slightly longer hairs, it's better to have a slightly longer rig to give the fish more time to get the rig back into its mouth. Some people will use longer rigs to fish over debris on the bottom and stuff. But yeah, for general clear spot fishing, 6 to 8 inches for normal size baits. And if you're going to use really big baits like 25 millers, then perhaps lengthen it a little bit, or like I say, shorter for solid bags.
Cool. Lee has asked, my lake is full of smaller carp and silvers after successfully breeding a few years ago. How would you target the bigger fish? And he's also put, P.S. These carp are like piranhas, 5 kilos last minutes.
Yeah, well, so it's baby carp and silvers.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that is a problem, tiger nuts. I was saying that quite a lot on this show. Like, tiger nuts are quite hard to crush for smaller fish. You know, their throat teeth or the muscles behind their throat teeth that they use, they will struggle to go through tigers. They will pick them up, and you will catch small carp on tigers, but they are more difficult to crush. The other thing you can use is bigger boilies that are slightly harder than normal. You know, using 20s, 22s, stuff like that are quite hard. That won't stop them, but it should slow them down a bit. They're the two main bits of advice I would give.
Cool. Ivor has asked, what's your thoughts on using braid in the summer when the weed is up?
Braided mainline.
I'm gonna assume so. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I like to use braid. It's obviously very strong. The Korda sub braid that I use is very coarse, and it does cut through stuff nicely. You know, if you get caught in a bit of weed, you can sort of saws through it. I can't really think of too much negative. You know, if you're fishing over sort of blanket weed, like sort of snotty stuff that just lies over the bottom, the braid can sink into that. Obviously, it does sink really well, that sub braid, and line can be trapped in it from the get go when you get a run. It might be better with more of a slower sinking mono that sort of sits on top of that rather than burying right into it. But yeah, I would say if you're fishing in weedy conditions, you are allowed to use braid. Having that extra strength and the coarseness that saws through the weed is a good thing.
Cool. Jack Mycroft has asked, hi Darrell, I have a week session booked at Linear's Manor Farm in Peg 10. How would you approach the week?
I don't know.
Where is Peg 10?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
I'll find out. Do you know much about Manor? Like,
I've fished it.
If I find the peg, will you?
Yeah, if you could bring up the map of
I'll
the
have a
lake,
look. I'll have a look.
Have a look. Yeah, give me the next question. You could dig that one.
Haven't fished properly for a few years, just getting back into it. I've found some hook baits that have been in glug for the last 2 years. Will they be all right to use?
Probably, yes. Hook baits are generally in a glug. Generally, yeah. Unless if they were hook baits to start with, they would have had an element of preservative in them, or they will have been dried. And it's only when they're sort of exposed to the air that they're going to turn. So if they've been within the dip, they're probably still absolutely fine. Going back to this guy at Manor, I know you're looking for the map.
I've got it here.
What's the time? What time of year did it say?
It doesn't say.
It doesn't say.
No. Peg 10, so it's on that far bank. It's fairly central, a little bit off.
Yeah, looks all right. Pretty good zone. From my experience at Manor, it's got quite a lot of Canadian pondweed in it. Compared to some of the other lakes, it's more of your typical gravel pit, that sort of lake that I grew up as a kid on. I know they'd like ziggs in there at all times of the year. You know, you're talking about clouds of carp, of like big pods of carp in there. So don't ignore ziggs, especially if it's warm. Although they will tend to pick out a lower average size, as Tom Maker regularly points out. But yeah, my advice would be to spend if you've got a week on there and you're going to be in that swim, on the first day, really go to town with the leading rod. You know, talk to anyone, Bailiff or whatever, because there'll be known, on a weedy lake like that, there'll be known clear spots. Don't take it as gospel. Obviously, listen to it. Have a good interrogate with the marker rod. Find yourself a nice clear spot close to the middle. There's clear spots in all the swims there, big gravelly ones at the Sim Bay. Set your stall out on that, but don't go I wouldn't say go all guns blazing. You know, if you've got a week and it's a good time of year, there's a lot of fish in the lake. You could eat, I would say, opening line of attack, 40 spoms of your chosen bait. Tigers, a bucket of tigers and some 10 mils. And there's a lot of tench in Manor as well. There is a lot of tench in Manor. So, yeah, I would go in with sort of 45 spoms on night one. And I might put another dozen out if I hadn't caught, but then I wouldn't put any more bait out at that point. I would try to, depending on how big the spot is you find, I might put 2 or 3 rods out there if it's a big spot. But yeah, I know the fish in Manor are quite often around the middle of the lake, and if you put a good banquet of bait out on a good spot, and then what you don't want to be doing is plumbing midweek, like looking for new spots. If you can do the effort day one, find your spots, keep the disturbance down, because you're going to have people coming and going, bombing it up, putting loads of bait out, casting around all the time. If you can get it quiet in your swim and settled, other people will push the fish onto you, that's for sure.
Yeah. Just quickly as well, obviously with Tom Maker, we did a film. I think it was his first film, the second part of the session we did on Manor. So you might be able to get a few tips from there. One other one that I did was with Neil Spooner on a masterclass. I think it's probably a couple of years old. Yeah. But it was the one where we were doing like ready tied rigs or something. But one of the sessions was on Manor, and it was in Peg 9, the one basically closer.
Yeah. I've done a thinking tackle there.
11 it was, swim 11.
I've done a thinking tackle there with Adam Penning years ago, but we were on the car part swims where Tom fished.
Yeah, so Tom, I mean, the one with Neil, have a look if you haven't. I guess you might have already, but that was swim 11, and you might get a few tips from there as well. Okay. So we've got another question from Will, who was before as well, asking about the hook baits. He's also asked, he's starting on a new lake soon. Everyone uses backleads. Never use them. Have you got any tips?
I like backleads if the bottom is fairly uniform, as in it ain't, if you've not got too much weeds and sort of stuff between you and your spot, and the bottom is relatively flat, then pinning your line down like that, I've done well on a lot of lakes fishing with backleads. The one negative is if there's stuff, or two negatives. One, if there's stuff between you and the spot, then your line can be propped up midway, and if it's off the bottom and the fish goes through it on another rod, then you've got a big problem there, because there's no, you can't just lift up a rod and go over and under. You're in that situation. Once you've got a backlead on and the fish takes a line, you're generally in pretty bad trouble at that point. And still at the rod tip, if the fish gets round the inside of the backlead when you're playing it under the tip, that can cause you trouble as well. But yeah, no, if the bottom is flat, they can definitely be an advantage. Keeping your obviously line pressure, fish are very aware of that. So yeah, if you can keep your lines down out of the way and there's nothing between you and the spot, they are good.
Cool. Welsh boilie basher, I've heard that one before.
Boilie basher.
Yeah. If you found the fish and caught a 40-pounder, but you felt the fish had moved off, what is your deciding decision-making factor in either spending time moving and relocating, or staying to build up, I guess, another fish?
Yeah, it's, I've many a time I've caught. I remember the first time I ever caught on Burfield, for example. Very, very good description of this would be to that question. So, caught my first 2 fish out of Burfield on a single morning, 41, 42, something like that, and it was really foggy. I caught them at first light, really foggy. When the fog lifted, the lake was flat calm. It was beginning, I think it was the last week of April or early May, like sort of right at either the end of April. I think it was the very end of April. And as the mist burnt off, it was flat calm out there. First hot day, really hot day of the year, I started seeing fish on the surface out in the middle of the lake, not near where I was fishing, but out in the middle. And they were moving from right to left. And I saw like a group of 5, 6 move through the swim out at range, right to left. And I saw a few more move through the swim, right to left. And then I saw a few more moving right to left. Now, at that point, every single fish that I'd seen out there was moving in the same direction. And despite having caught 2 40s, I was pretty confident that the fish were moving to the other end. So I moved, So it's it's whether you feel the fish are still there or are likely to come back to where you are. So it's, in carp fishing, there's loads and loads and loads of questions that haven't got definitive answers. A lot of the time it's the watercraft, reading, trying to read the situation in front of you, whether you think you stand another chance of a bite where you are or you stand a better chance somewhere else. So yeah, that's how I'd answer
Very
that.
Good. Ivor, how would you change your tactics now that they've spawned? I guess some places haven't spawned, but if they had spawned, to summer tactics. So is there a time that you change? What would you do that's different?
Well, a lot of the time you'll see me turn up to venues that I've not fished before, right? And in that situation, I tend to fish very mobile, looking like what I would call spring tactics, looking for shows, casting out pop-ups, minimal bait, moving around the lake a lot. But as we get post-spawning, especially if I've been fishing the same lake, if I've started to notice a pattern of where the fish are tending to go, also the weed by now is coming up. So you can't often just cast out anywhere. Now, at this time of year, spots become more important. It's location is always the most important, but if you can't present where the fish are, then you're not fishing. So I'll be looking for areas where the fish have been getting consistently over the spring. I'll be making sure that I've done my homework with my plumbing, so that when I'm in certain swims, I haven't got to bomb them up when the fish are there. And I'll be tending to fish over more accurately spommed bait. Post spawning is can be, not always, not on every lake. Some lakes, they can go all moody after spawning. But a lot of the time, they want to immediately get on the munch. The water's finally warm. They've lost a lot of weight and energy through the spawning process, and it can be a good time to introduce bait. And when I say loads of bait, it's the difference between like a 7, 8 spoms on a spot is what I would call a normal bait up, like a standard little bait up. Quite a medium one would be 15 to 20 spoms, and a heavy bait up would be 30 to 40 spoms. So I'm never really ever putting more than 40, 45 spoms out, and that would depend on how many fish are in the lake, how many nuisance fish, bird life, and if I thought I was on the main pack of fish. Once I remember going to Sandhurst and spomming out 45 spoms of tigers in the middle and just absolutely having it away. So that's. Yeah, it does depend on the stock level, but now is the time to find your clear spots, write down in your phone your wraps and all that sort of malarkey, even taking pictures of the trees and marking the picture where you're casting, write down the wraps 'cause it's easy to forget. Taking note of where they're getting and fishing over a little bit more bait.
Very good. Tony has asked, hi Darrell, why is air pressure important? Is it important in small lakes as well as big pits? My lake is 3 foot to 12 foot. Thank you.
I've got to be honest. I think it's relative to where the fish will be in the lake, and the hearsay, is that low pressure is better for fishing and high pressure is worse for fishing. But it all depends on the situation. Like if the fish are all in the edge on high pressure, then they might be having it. If you find them, the conditions, it looks carpy when the wind's blowing in, it's rainy, it's overcast, and I've caught really well in that situation. But I've also caught when it's absolutely flat calm, there's not a cloud in the sky, it's blazing hot, and the fish are turned on by the sun. The water temperature is I think can be as much as a catalyst for feeding as carpy conditions. In the spring, I think sometimes high pressure can be good, as in because load of sun warms the water up, gets the fish having a little mooch about, coming into the shallow areas, you're more likely to find them. When in the summer, when it's been stagnantly hot for ages and ages and ages, sometimes a big low pressure after a hot period can put some oxygen in the water and get them feeding. I think the pressure is more relative to where you're likely to catch them rather than to them being catchable. So, they're more likely to be shallow in high pressure, more likely to be sunbathe in high pressure, they're more likely to be deeper in low pressure. Like that's a sort of, but you can catch them in both situations.
Cool. Right, Mark Shoring. Evening, lads. Darrell, on your multi-combi rig, you use shrink tube as your liner. However, on your solid bag multi-rig, you use a kicker.
Use both.
Use both. There's no specific reason for it. I guess it's at the time you just...
Yeah, the kickers are much easier, much more convenient, the kickers are. I use both. The kickers are convenience, whereas the shrink tube is a more tighter fit, possibly a little bit better. But I use both, and they both work really, really well.
Cool. Shane Hooper, casting to shows. What would be your preferred hook bait and rig in the early summer?
What, casting for shows?
Casting at showing fish, yeah.
Tigers. no, I don't say that. I did catch one that plays casting tigers to showing fish, but it's not normally my go-to. But it'd be really easy when you say yellow pop-up, which is on a lot of venues, has been for a decade or 20 years been a great tactic. But I've more and more like I've just since the spin, like obviously we had stiff hinge rigs, chod rigs, Ronnie rigs and spinner rigs. Like the fashion for the last 20 years is pop-ups, and the more we all shout about it on the videos, the more people use it, and the more every fishing lake has been caught on it over and over again. And I'm having more success in recent times, not all the time, but like I would say like the solid bag, if you haven't got too many nuisance fishing lake, is a very underused tactic. A little bit fiddly, a little bit annoying, but mass is more of attraction in the bag. So that's one thing. But you said pop-ups, didn't you? What would be... what did you say?
Oh no, sorry. I just preferred hook bait.
Hook bait. It depends on the presentation, as in if you're casting out into a silty lake where there's no weed anywhere, you know, a lot of the time on those silty lakes there's no weed anywhere, you could just fish a wafter, just bang out into the silt, lovely job. But if you think there's blanket weed, it's patchy and out there, you might be better with the standard pop-up stiff hinge rig with you know, a duller pop-up on. You know, if the bright ones have been hammered, then using a duller pop-up. But yeah, so again, it's a question. It depends on the situation.
Yeah. Right, let's do a little look at the community page. So we'll do the draw for this.
Okay.
You can have a look at these as we go through. That's a nice one there. So everyone that 38. So all of these, everyone who entered.
On the screen,
yeah, on the screen as well. Loads of nice fish. So everyone that entered from the 1st of April to the end of April will get the chance to win a £50 voucher
from Johnson and Ross
for Johnson and Ross. Yeah. So I'm not, I'm just going to scroll through. But if you would like the chance to win a £50 voucher, and then at the end in February next year, we're going to do a draw for an overall winner for a £100 voucher, then all you need to do is post a picture once per month, just of your latest catch, like all of these people have done. There's loads on there. And then you'll get put into a draw. So it's only if you put a picture on, which is the key thing. So, I think this month we've got about 65 or 70 people in the draw. So, yeah, have a little look through, because, though, the feed remains there; it doesn't disappear. Okay. So it's like never ending. So if you wanted to go through them all, you could.
Yeah.
But let's do the draw for that one, and then see who wins the £50 voucher. Press that little tap to draw. Max Allen has won.
£50.
Take a screenshot. So Max Allen, we'll get in touch. You've won a £50 voucher.
Well done, Max.
For Johnson Ross, which you can spend on whatever you want, put towards something if you want. And then in February next year, you might win a £100 voucher as well, because you get put into, everyone who enters gets put into the draw. So if you didn't win this month, you're still in the draw at the end of the month. At the end of the year, sorry. Yeah. Or the start of next year it'll be, because we started in February. So that's that one. And then we're going to do the Korda draw.
At the end.
The £500 Korda Compac bundle, we'll do that towards the end.
Yeah.
Yeah?
A few more questions.
Yeah,
we've only given away one sticker pack yet.
Yeah, you need to...
Start giving them away.
Tell me.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sorry.
You're too concentrating on questions.
Yeah, I'm thinking about what I'm saying.
Right. Do you inject oil or other additives into your PVA bags, as a found oil soaks into soft braid hook links, making it float?
Yeah, I wouldn't worry about the soft braided hook link floating. That wouldn't bother me at all. In amongst all that bait, it could be anything on the bottom. I don't think that would put the fish off in any way, shape or form. I would be more inclined, rather than to inject it into the bag, where I think it would just float away within a nanosecond of the bag melting, I'd be more inclined to soak the contents of my bag in oil prior to making the bag, so that the oil is deeply penetrated into the bait and give you a longer lasting leakage, as opposed to just inject it into the bag.
Cool.
Sticker packs. Sticker packs.
Do you know who that is?
Who?
I didn't say the name again, but it's Welsh Boilie Basher. I don't know. I can't remember who Welsh Boilie Basher is, but I know I've seen him before.
Okay.
Welsh Boilie Basher. Cool. James Kane, what do you both prefer, a common or a mirror?
I like both, but I'm probably a mirror. Yeah.
Yeah, I prefer bigger commons.
Yeah.
Just a big common.
Yeah, I like a big common. It's more to it than that, though. It's just
Yeah,
like,
it is. Yeah.
it's the shape,
Yeah.
the colour,
Yeah.
the head shape, the fin shape, the tail shape. It's all part of the
Yeah.
package. I could say I prefer mirrors.
Yeah.
But you could show me a common that I prefer more than the mirror.
Yeah.
So
Like if I caught a scaly mirror, I'd prefer that over a massive common.
yeah.
But I'd like maybe I wouldn't prefer it over a massive common. Don't know. I
Depends.
quite like the big commons.
Yeah. There's a lot to it.
They look good.
A lot to it.
Johnny Meatball.
Johnny
I've
Meatball.
not seen that one before. What are your thoughts on the German rig? It has become my go-to for pop-ups and bottom baits. Yet so many say it's not a pop-up rig. I swear by it for pop-ups.
Never used it. Looks like a very easy rig to construct, which for me is a good thing. You want nothing too time-consuming. I would agree with the people that say it's not really a pop-up rig. I wouldn't say it's at its best fish like that. But like many things, even though it's not at its best, it will probably still work. What you've got to remember is people used to catch on free-line potatoes. It's just because it works doesn't mean it's working optimally. That's
Optimal.
optimally.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's better.
Yeah. I think so.
Yeah. The German rig, good rig. Loads of people have used it. Not myself, but I would agree that it's probably not best as a pop-up rig.
Cool. You caught me off guard there. Just trying to find another question. Justin Easy. Fishing this time of year, would you fish on the wind or not on a near featureless lake? So would you fish on the wind or not on a near featureless lake?
Yeah, I would say if I hadn't seen anything this time of year and the wind was fresh, as in it hadn't been blowing in the same direction for ages, I may... it depends on what the lake looks like, If at the end of the lake where the wind was blowing looked good, I'd be more inclined to try there. If it looked better up another out the wind, then I might try there. But yeah, I think if everything's even, if the lake looks the same at both ends, it's not particularly better features at one end to the other. I do like to fish on. I feel more confident when the wind is blowing in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, so Peter Walton has asked, evening lads, please recommend the best line for long distance with weed in mind.
Well, I think the tapered line is one of the better lines for long range fishing. I don't really like using thin line when there's a bit of weed around, but if you've got to go really far, the Korda long chuck stuff in 0.33, that it's got heavy, strong leader section to obviously take the brunt of the cast, but it'll also give you that abrasion resistance at the hook/lead end should you get a fish in the weed, and it is pretty darn strong, that stuff. So I think it's £15 the 0.33, and you should comfortably be able to fish over 120 yards with that.
Cool. Adam Walsh has asked, have you tried normal pop-ups on ziggs instead of foam?
Yeah, and caught years ago. Joe Morgan from Carp and I, when Joe used to work for Korda, we used to fish as a pair in the British Carp Championships, and I remember having quite a few fish out of Farlow's on, I think Heathrow Bait Service chocolate malt pop-ups, like little 12 millers. They were yellow and red, 12 mil. Catching some out of Farlow's on them. I've caught on yellow pop-ups on ziggs, but I do tend to fish foam these days. So I don't think it's anything to do with smell. I think it's more to do they can just see it.
Yeah. Matt has asked, when fishing naked chods, would you recommend fluorocarbon leader or swapping line to straight fluorocarbon, or just use mono?
I wouldn't recommend a leader necessarily. I would, depending on the situation. Like, I do like to fish it on that on the Korda contour straight through with a line saver bead. I think those line saver beads are underrated products. They're really, really good for protecting the main line from the ring of the swivel during the fight. And I can't recall the time when I've had it snap, because if you it can snap if you haven't got one of those line saver beads on. When you've got the ring of the swivel running down the line under tension, it is a known thing that can cause the line to break. So definitely use a line saver bead. If it's sort of open water fishing, then the fluorocarbon will be good, because I like to use the 12-pound contour. But if it's sort of any sort of it's a bit more sketchy, like a bit more snaggy, a bit more weedy, you're going to be pulling quite hard, I would fish it on as heavier line as possible. If you're going to fish directly on line, say a 20-pound 0.43 mono, something like that. But if it's like really serious, then just having a lot of the guys you'll see, like Luke Stevenson on the Korda website, using short lead core sections between the lead and the first bead, so that when the fish is hooked, the rig slides down onto the lead core, and that gets obviously much stronger connection.
Cool. I think I gave him a sticker pack.
Yes, fine.
I think I did. Just checking. Yeah, Matt. That was from Matt. Matt, you've got no surname on your nickname on the website, so if you can just email me, and then I can make sure I send them to the right Matt.
Yeah.
We've got loads of questions. Like, we might not ever get through them. We'll try. So shorten them a little bit, and we'll try and get through a little bit.
Punchy.
Ben has asked, what's your advice on a silty lake?
I've done best on silty lakes fishing with braided hook links and larger size wafters, like 18 to 20 mil. A lot of people want to fish pop-ups high above the silt, whereas I've definitely done better with bigger baits on the silt, wafters, 18, 20 mil.
Cool. John Andrews has asked about leads. What shape, size, and when to use different types?
When I'm casting to show fish, generally I will fish as light a lead as I can get away with for disturbance reasons. When I'm fishing to clear spots, small ones in the weed, I tend to fish with heavier lead. So when I hit the clip, the line is fully straightened out, and I find them more accurate to land on clear spots more consistently. Tend to use swivel leads on helicopter rigs or lead clips 90% of the time. Although if you're fishing with braided hook links, solid bags, then inlines are the way.
Cool. Daniel has asked, match the hatch pop-ups or highly visible ones?
I hardly ever fish match the hatch hook bait these days, purely because I'm being a bit lazy, and I'm not fishing the same venue consistently. But if you are fishing the same venue consistently, you are feeding a bait, then a match the hatch hook bait, especially summertime, is the way to go.
Cool. Ben has asked, hi Darrell, do you know when the Compac Unhooking Mat is coming out? Also, what's the tool spoon he uses on his singles? Love the content and app. Downloaded films for my sessions as I have no signal. It's perfect.
Ideal. Do I know when the Compact Unhooking Mat?
I think it's out soon.
Do you?
Because
I don't think it is.
Well, we do some of the promo for Korda, some of the adverts that they put out, and one of them was on the Unhooking Mat.
Wasn't that wasn't that the small one though?
The
basics one.
Yeah, the basics one. No one.
Yeah, I think they're asking about the Compact one, which is a different one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Forget what I said.
Yeah, I think. Yeah. The Compact one, not the Compact, the basics one is out. The Compact one is not out, and I don't think it's available anytime soon. I literally, they had my sample back off me recently into the office they're like troubleshooting with it, like what do you like, what don't you like, and obviously the next sample is going to come before it even gets ordered. I think
that's the one that you were having some issues with when we were in Germany, wasn't it? The fish not sitting in it quite right.
Yeah, it was a bit slidey on the top. Yeah.
So these things go into
it's
a lot of testing,
being tested
to get it spot on, which is good. But we don't know. And the tool for Spooner uses on his singles?
No idea. No.
You have to ask him.
You have to ask him. Yeah, I know he responds to all his messages, so drop him in the box.
David Lloyd, would you say using a deeper is cheating or a fantastic edge? Recently bought one of my mates saying I'm cheating. Hasn't caught me a fish yet, but has helped me find spots.
Honestly, it's definitely not cheating. You know, and echo sounders have been used for decades, you know. But it's just one of those things, when people haven't got one, they assume it's such an edge that it's going to put fish on the bank instantly for them. And if you've used one, you'll know that there's very few times where I've put one out, found fish. Once at Hardwick, I put them out at Hardwick. I filmed an adjustable zig video once, found the fish with them, caught a load of fish doing so. But most of the time, they're just a very easy way just to get an idea of the depths in your swim. If you were to cast a marker float through your swim and have to pop it up multiple times, it's a lot more obtrusive than just casting a deeper out once and sort of reeling it through your swim, getting a rough idea of the depths. Definitely not cheating. Not a massive edge, but something. They're quite small, the size of a tennis ball, to have in your bag. Like for zig fishing, say you're in a swim and there's a few fish cruising around on the top, and you think, I don't know how deep it is out there. You can literally bomb the deeper out there once, whack it past the fish, reel it through your swim slowly. Oh right, it's 7 foot all the way through my swim. The fish are on the surface. Pop out a 5 foot zig, and you're fishing. You know, it's a nice little tool to have in your bag, but don't expect miracles out of it.
Okay. James Burke, fishing a reservoir and had joy casting to showing fish. Going to fish these areas more. The bottom's quite sandy. Would you be focusing on the drop or variation in depth? Struggling to find a spot I'm confident in.
Say that again.
So he's fishing a reservoir.
Yeah.
He's cast to showing fish.
Yeah.
He's had some.
Yeah.
So he's going to fish these areas more.
Yeah.
The bottom's quite sandy.
Yeah.
Would you focus on the drop or variation in depth? I don't really know too much.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying. For me, I'm all about the drop. You know, good drops tend to do bites, especially if you find good drops where the fish are showing. You know, it's like if I cast through a jumping fish and I get a naff drop, I feel like the chance of it going is slim to none. I'm not saying it will never go, because I've caught fish on bad drops casting at showing fish. But when I get really good drops casting at special fish, they tend to go more quick. It tends to go, you know. So yeah, I would interrogate the areas where you've seen these fish, where you've had the action. I would definitely look for changes in depth, changes in depth with good drops. A good drop is it's a winner.
Cool. Luke Cadwallader. Oi, oi, sailor boy.
Oi, oi, sailor boy.
Did you ever bump into the deputy head bailiff again after casting incident on Rockford?
No. Like, that happened right at the. I think that's pretty early on actually on my Rockford campaign, because obviously when it changed hands to Ringwood, it was the new bailiffs. So I didn't really see him again after that. No.
Cool. George Bunting, what's your favourite place you've ever fished and why?
Oh, odd. You know, loads of good places, like Wasing for obvious reasons. Love the North Met because it was such for a young lad. I was fishing there sort of with my mates on a big 60-acre gravel pit. It was just a massive steep learning curve, real steep savage bars, about 100 carp. Learned a lot about watercraft, spot feature finding, spot fishing and that there. And Orient is every single time I go there, it's just no matter, I've fished I've probably more than 100 nights on Orient, and still every time I go there I feel like a lost little boy. It's just like, it's one of those lakes that it feels like a monster every time.
Yeah. Matthew Parr, hi lads, I'm currently on a syndicate that has a large head of bream. What would you suggest bait-wise to stop the bream clearing me out?
Bream a nightmare, man. Like when they move in on you, they're just a disaster.
So soul destroying when you bring it, you know instantly it's a bream, and you,
especially if it's like a hard spot to get onto or it's quite far out. You know, if I'm always using sharpened hooks, so every time I catch one, you know, back round the sticks, fresh hook on, got to get it back out there in the dark. It's just it's a nightmare.
They should be called something else, bream.
Yeah, pain in the butt. But yeah, tigers. Tigers, I have caught bream on tigers, but if you don't put anything else in the mix, if you fish straight tigers or if you fish straight big boilies, you will catch less.
This is a good question. It's a very simple answer, but I know why you do it. But Carlos has asked, hello mate, I've seen you in some of your videos, you use a bait boat or a boat and use the echo sounder and also for baiting, but later you cast to your rods. So why do you put your rod out? Why don't you put your rod out with the bait boat? Why are you casting?
He's basically referring to the aquarium films.
I think so.
Yeah, basically, I like to feel the drop, and I'm better at doing it with casting because I've done it more often. But I do like the tight dump that the bait boat offers for the bait. And if you want to get a load of bait out without making much disturbance, the bait boat is lethal for that, absolutely lethal. But I'm quite happy to make 3 or 4 casts to get a rig bang on top of it, and it's easier to do it again in the night like that, I feel. I like casting the rigs sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes. If I'm fishing over a big pile of bait, I'm quite happy to cast back over the top of it.
Cool. Lucas has asked, where do you find the drive to do what you do day in, day out, and the cameras, so the fishing and the camera work? How do you keep going and not go like hang it up, take up golf?
Hang it up and take, well, it's a job now, you know. It's passion. It's always been something that I do. There are times when I do, like, I go on these long trips, you know, when we've bolted Korda and CarpFix trips together. So I've done 2 weeks for Korda and then a week for CarpFix. And I ain't going to lie, for after 3 weeks on the bank, I'm feeling pretty tired of it, you know. I've had enough, you know, but put me at home for a week, 3 screaming kids and a couple of showers, and I'm ready to go again. You know, I'm ready to get out of the house. You know, it's yeah. Everything in life is about moderation, you know, and if you overdo it a little bit, you know, you just need a little break, and then you're ready to go again. Aren't you?
At the end of the day, you haven't really known any different. It's just what you do. It's only like a plumber going to work every day. It's exactly
it's different as in nights away, isn't it? That's the thing. It's and you're bolting them together without gaps. You know, if normal jobs, you know, you go to work, even if you do 12-hour days, you come home, you have your rest, you go back. Whereas when you're on the bank, you're there
24/7.
24/7. But I suppose it's if you're in the army or something.
Yeah, you do. Yeah,
you know, it's
yeah. So how do you find the drive?
I'm driven.
I guess there's a bit of a balance there.
Yeah, there is a balance.
I think if you didn't have the family to go back to, you'd be more inclined to stay out, and you would probably lose the drive.
I've seen people, won't mention their names, like people say I'm going full time because they think that that's what they want from their lives, and all of these people that I've seen that say I'm going full time, all of them burn out. They overdo it, and I wouldn't want to fish, you know, full time, you know, as in like 7 nights a week, 5, 6 nights a week, every week. I wouldn't want to do it because it would become monotonous, and it's the gaps, the breaks that make it what it is.
Cool. This person's name's Fish Person. I'm going to guess it's their nickname.
Fish Person.
It can't be their real name. Really like.
He can have some stickers.
Yeah, well, he's going to because of what he said. Really like the content, guys. Being a subscriber since day one, would like to see some more Peckers Techers, which we would love to do. But at the moment, we have zero time. Well, I have zero time to even contemplate doing it. Maybe over winter.
Yeah, I think we can do some more.
Yeah,
January we should, because we've got a lot of films in the bag, haven't we? We've got a lot, and we're going to have more coming.
Yeah,
but in January we could have a little. We could knock a few big carp stories out and a few techers, so that we haven't got to do them in.
The technical films, I'd like to also not put them out as a film on a Friday, like as what you expect.
Put them out as an extra.
Just put them out, just so you've got a library there. But we will do more. More of a tips and tricks rather than actual rig making is asked for as well, which is like the casting and stuff. We were going to do that. So he hasn't really asked a question. He just said that. But we'll give him a set of stickers.
Yeah, just but if you've got like any specifics, you can always email in.
Email info at CarpFix.tv.
Yeah, take your time, write a big old list of all the things that you'd love to see, and if we think any of them we can make it work, then we will.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. Matthew Williams, when zig fishing, is the look of bait, i.e. the foam, more important than attraction? In brackets, smell. We have touched on it quite a lot.
Yeah, I really think zig rig fishing is 95% about the sight of it. Hang on, Steve.
Bless you.
Yeah, I truly believe that. And in the old days, if you'd have said to me, what's the perfect height for your zig? I'd have said slightly lower than the fish so that they have to tip and if they tip and try to sit back up, then they hook themselves, because logically that sounds correct. But over the years, the amount of night bites that I've had on zigs, I'm now starting to believe that it'd be better off pitched just above them and they're coming up onto it. So I really truly believe it's a sight thing and not a smell thing.
Yeah. Okay. Lee has asked, what rig would you recommend for big boilies? So 24mm plus is asked for.
Yeah, a lot of the time when I fish at Orient, I fish, especially autumn time, I fish with big boilies like that, and I fish with just braid, so no combi rig, nothing like that. And I fish with a big long kicker, so like a 2 centimetre piece of shrink tube or a plastic kicker on a size 4 wide gate pex, sort of blowback style, have a ring or a knot on the shank level with the barb, and a liner to kicker or shrink tube. And a longer rig with a big bait like a 24mm, I would tend to fish with a 10, 11 inch rig.
Yeah. Michael's asked, hi gents, is there any chance of you doing a Pecker's Techers on using an echo sounder or deeper? How to read the screen and what Darrell would fish over just by using the screen? We did touch on it very briefly on the aquarium with Derek.
Yeah.
Because I'm talking really brief. So we will, I'd like to do a more thorough. Did we do anything in Spain in a bit more detail? I think we did a little bit like talking about what you were fishing
Looking
over.
for.
Yeah. But we will do it because we've got lots of footage we could use.
Yeah.
But yeah, we haven't actually got something.
I want to get one of the new, like, real high-tech sound. My Mako sound is a good one, but there's some real high-tech stuff out there these days. Like it shows what side
scans and
side
things.
scan and all that. I actually knocked the crocodile clip off my Echo Sound the other day, so I do need a new one.
If anyone works for anyone,
Lawrence,
if anyone works for Lawrence, and
send him an email.
It goes on YouTube, so you never know. Lawrence, info@carpfix.tv.
Yeah.
Darrell, hi guys. Have you ever used plastic tiger nuts? Does my club ban real ones?
Yeah, well, if you what, are you going to feed them and fish plastic one over the top? Yeah, because fishing a plastic one without real ones out there, it's sort of defeating the object. You know, you basically got a brown piece of rubber out there that if fished over something, they might suck into their mouth. But if you're going to bend the rules and put some out there, and you could fish a rubber one on the hair, but warning, those fish do pass the tigers in the sling. Yeah. So yeah, you wouldn't want to get caught fish on the mat passing loads of tigers.
There you go. Glenn has asked, I'm suffering losing fish regularly due to hook burrs. I use Korda hooks. Any idea why I'm suffering with burrs, especially after dropping carp with a new hook?
Yeah, well, that's when you lose a fish, the hook drags from the fish's mouth. And if you're using sharp hooks, like sharpened hooks, kamakuras, or just really sharp at the packet hooks, you know, very rarely do you get a hook back that I would ever put back out there. And I know for most of you watching this, you probably use the same hook over and over again. And if your hook isn't overly sharp to start with, you can keep repeatedly using it. But when you fish with really sharp hooks, like kamakuras, hand sharpened hooks, or just really, really like fine pointed hooks, when you lose a fish, you know, 99 times out of 100, it's going to come back burred because it's dragged out of the fish's mouth. With regard to your hook pulls, you know, if you're obviously a member of CarpFix to be on this live, I would really strongly suggest that you have a look at the Pecker's Techers combi multi-rig, because that rig, like everyone wants to put their own take on it, but if you fish that rig exactly as I've showed it in that thing, very cost-effective rig because you're only changing the hook, you get to keep the whole hook link over and over again. But that has been the most reliable rig that I've used in the last decade by a country mile. So yeah, I strongly recommend you give that a go.
Cool. Just trying to find another question. Matt has asked what email address you can contact us on, info@carpfix.tv. Stephen has asked any more big carp stories in the pipeline. We're recording one this week, aren't we?
Yeah, so last one was the Belgium part 1, butter knife story. But we've got the the story that I've got. I don't want to spoil it, but there's a brilliant thing that happened to me in the middle of this session. No, it's not quite as violent as before, but it's perhaps even funnier. And yeah, I had the session of my life in that I had a 71 common, 260, so 260, 65 pluses, so 65 or 67, 550s out of, I had a 27 fish catch. But yeah, that's the next big carp story.
Cool. And also, will there be any more films with Derek Harrison? And I've just come back from filming with Derek. And there will be one out in the next few months, and we've got plans to do another one which is half finished because unfortunately I had to come back early. So we've got 1.5 films, so we do have more coming with Derek. Definitely. Dan Stipeen, I'm sorry, I can't pronounce your surname. He's asked, where are the long kickers from that featured in the Thinking Tackle? Are they Korda prototypes? I guess
they call the prototypes. Yeah.
So mention about. I mean, obviously we do our own stuff, but for Korda, what have you? It's come out today, yeah?
Yeah, it's just come out today.
Tell people what it is.
Yeah, it's Thinking Tackle on demand. Myself and Tom Stokes fishing on a private German lake at the southeast corner of Germany near Austria, absolutely miles away. Came out this evening for Tom's first ever Thinking Tackle. Enjoyable film. Yeah. Is it?
It's because the one next to it was open to the public. Yeah.
So the one if you see the autumn masterclass from a couple of years ago, that the autumn masterclass is filmed on a lake next to the lake that we're on in this one. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Let's have a look. Keep up the great content. Fishing a silty lake.
Silty.
He's put silly lake, but I think it's silty lake. Can't find a solid drop. Do you fish the silt, and how would you bait? Thanks. P.S. Fishing with Derek H in July. Good luck.
Good luck.
This is from Old Kahuna.
Old Kahuna.
Yeah.
We had the silt question earlier, but quite often I fish with braided hook links so that when the lead plummets in, the braid can still just sit however it sits over the silt rather than being propped up with a stiffer boomed hook link. Yes, you can fish with helicopter rigs with the bead pushed up, but I've done really well on silty lakes with big wafters, 18, 20 millers, on 10-inch braided rigs with light lead. So because the light lead is going into the silt, it's going to give the same whack. The fish is going to, if it has to try and pull it out of the bottom, it's going to feel like a heavier lead. So my advice would be to fish a light lead on a longish rig with braid, because no one's using braid these days. 18, 20 mil wafter just to sit on top of it and bait with bigger boilies like throwing stick approach.
Cool. We're getting near the end.
Okay.
And we'll do the draw for the Korda compact bundle.
Yeah.
£500 Korda compact bundle. We'll do it in the next 10 minutes. Let's have a little look. See. Just going down here. Oh, Gigantica. I'm off to Gigantica end of September. Any tips?
Yes, I've literally just been to Gigantica. I fished a week there in May with Danny. Caught the biggest fish that I've ever caught out there, a 69-pounder. But there's a lot of fish in Gigantica now. The sort of tactics that worked best for me this time around was fishing not bright bait, so the opposite of bright bait. It's like a lot of maize and corn has worked really well because Dan done a winter masterclass there, and because he done really well fishing with maize, there's been a lot of fishing go on like that, and the fish seemed to, from what I saw, had wised up to it a little bit. Like, it didn't seem quite as effective. I did catch using it,